Hello and a warm welcome to our third episode of Coaching Corner. Today, there was one request sent to talk about anxiety. Anxiety is something that hits each one of us in some way or another, and not all anxiety is wrong or is bad for you, because a little bit of it can steer us into positive action, can help us to improve, to challenge ourselves. It can help us be aware that something is not working well, be aware that something may be wrong. So it has its way to protect us from ill choices or negative consequences. But aside from that, anxiety can be really disturbing for us. And what's worse is that it can grow and torment us in many ways. So, what about you? Are you the anxious type or you're not? But even if you're not, what do you do when anxiety knocks at your door? And talking about anxiety coming at the door, I can't help but remember this feeling that I had, this knot in my stomach, anytime my dad would return home. Whenever I felt the key coming in and turning to open the door up, I would feel this tension in my stomach. I would feel this fear inside of me because I knew that it was dangerous, that my dad would, depending on the mood he had, would lash out at me or hit me, and it was bad. And with time, this anxiety was growing, and it stayed with me for a long time, even as an adult. Thank God that I was able to come out of all that this anxiety feeling were building up into bitterness and resentment against my dad, which after forgiving him, I understood he was also a very special man and he had a good heart. He just didn't know how to love me. But so this is not to highlight the problems that we can have with people, but is to recognize where anxiety comes from, so that we can see what we can do about it. So, what happens is that we tend to resist anxiety, or we want to fight it, or we want to avoid it. And if we let it run wild in our mind, it can go into a stronger mode like panic attacks and even cause depression. So we don't want to leave it by the side. We don't want to ignore it. We don't want to resist it. We don't want to react to it. We want to take care of it the best possible way. So the number one thing is to realize the power of our thoughts, that thoughts cause our feelings. And so it's a good time to go deep and identify the anxiety. What is causing this anxiety? So to give a name and take hold of it. It's interesting to notice that the word worry comes from an ancient English word that means to strangle. And I like the metaphor that many coaches use about thoughts left unchecked that are like a wild toddler running around with a knife in his hand. It can cause damage, and a lot of it. So, first thing is identify it and write down, be specific, and describe all that comes to you concerning anxiety. What are you anxious about? And do identify it. It's a rational anxiety. Is there a real cause to it? or it comes from our own imagination. Sometimes our mind can play strange movies in our mind. It makes us think things that are not even real, but still, they can become a stronghold that keeps us from moving and from taking the right decisions. It might really paralyze us and keep us stuck. And the next thing to do is allow some anxiety time. Stop from what you're doing, take a deep breath, and I can't emphasize enough how much power there is in standing still and refraining from the busyness that we get into, the do and do and do and do attitude that sometimes we look like mice in a wheel. And we want to take ownership of our time, of our thoughts, of our feelings. And so take a deep breath, get refocused, get recentered, and then allow your confidence to show up. Because if we listen to our anxiety without stopping, without giving time to hear it out, to identify it, to describe it, it might take us into a whirlwind of activities that will take us nowhere. So take ownership of your thoughts. Stand still and think, what would the worst case scenario look like? And this question is so great because it helps you to figure out what the worst possible thing can be, can happen to you. And then that gives you the feeling that you can do something about it. You can handle it, actually. And another thing that you can do is to even increase the worst feeling. What could be worse than that? And bring it to an extreme. Because once you do that, then you also find that you have the power to decrease it, or even to find what could be the opportunity in it, what could be the best thing that could possibly come out of this situation. And that will give you the power to do something about your thoughts, to recognize the thoughts that were causing the anxiety, and you can find a new thought that will lead you to a new feeling of calm, of powerfulness, that you can do something about it instead of being powerless and helpless. I hope this is helping you. And if you like to send your own requests about what coaching can do about, because there are so many tools that coaching provides to lead better and more uplifting, inspiring, and beautiful lives. A big hug. See you soon.